Hello, I'm John Self, and welcome to Office Hours, your career community. We're here to help you manage your career, to help you accelerate your job search. I spent 27 years in executive search around the world, and it was a great experience. It absolutely was just awesome. And I learned a lot. I saw so many good things that were happening. I saw some incredibly talented people interview, and I saw some extremely talented executives fail miserably in interviews because they weren't prepared or they didn't really understand how the process was working. And so they were, sort of that problem of what got you here won't get you there. So well, I hope you're welcome to our new kind of revision of our studio. We're doing some audio work, and this is a replay because earlier when we were doing the live feed, we had an audio interruption. We found out why that happened, and hopefully it won't happen again. So we're pleased that you joined us today. We hope that you'll come back tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. We're going to talk about another issue in the issue of recruiting and in career management, quiet firing. It's something new that's happening. Some of the big white shoe consulting firms are doing this. It's not illegal, but it's certainly underhanded. Come back tomorrow, 7:30 a.m., Career Live, and we'll tell you how maybe you can avoid that shenanigan. So we're delighted you're with us today again, and let's get started with our program today. We're going to focus on managing your career progression. Now, this is a topic that everybody goes, certainly you have to do that. That just makes sense. But we're going to talk about the forces that are driving it to a dimension that it has never been before. And so we hope that this will be helpful. First of all, a little housekeeping. We finally concluded the best way to distribute our newsletter was going to be on Substack. When I first heard of Substack, I thought it was, for the big highbrow people and people who had big followings. Well, our goal is to build a big following and people who want to learn more about their careers. But Substack is a great platform. You can, if you join, subscribe today, you can get a free subscription, period. After May 6th, any people who subscribe will have to pay a fee. It's going to be $8 to $11 a month. We currently publish once a week on Wednesday. If you're a member of our Your Career Community, when that does happen, we post a link on that page, and so you can know when we are then putting out the newsletter. Again, it's a Wednesday publication, and we try to cover interesting aspects of career management and trends in technology as it relates to recruiting and career management. So that's what the Substack page looks like. This is our career community page. Up here in the corner of the little red circle, it's the announcement page. So if you're your career community member, you can go in and click that announcement page, and the link to the newsletter will be there. So, okay, get rid of the housekeeping. Let's talk about the new era in career management. Now, employers are competing for top performers as with an industry contraction and a reduction in jobs. So that really poses this question for people like you and me. Are you interested in a job? Okay. In a job that is, basically going to pay the bills. It'll allow you to have some of the toys you want in life so you can have a good life with your family. That you want a good job, you want it rewarding, you want to do stuff that's interesting, but that's not the most important thing in your life. You are simply trying to have a job to pay the bills, to support your family. That's number one. And that's an important and good role. But there are other people who are very much interested in their family. They want to have a good living, but they want to achieve certain specific things with their life and in their career. And they want to take control of that. They don't want to sit back and just hope that something comes along that will be rewarding and meaningful. So that's a career. And, that's when you make that decision, then there's certain attendant things that you have to recognize and have to implement in order to be successful. Now, today, employers are being much pickier. I mean, a lot pickier for the people they're hiring. And we have seen this several times in the last 4 or 5 months where really qualified, very, very, very competent people were not getting the job because somebody who came along who had an advantage either in the market, in credentialing, or more relevant specific experience, they got the job. Why is this happening? What is happening? Employers aren't going, they're going for the high hanging fruit. Now, in the past, people sometimes would hire recruiters and they would say, go find us some good candidates. And the recruiters would go out and do their thing and come back and bring them 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 candidates. And the client would go through the resumes and pick the ones they wanted to talk to. There was no guarantee those were the 6 best people or the 12 best people for a given job. It's the people that the recruiters found. Maybe it was people they had warehoused in their system, and they were just trying to come up with inventory to make the fee. We took a little bit different approach, but that's a statement for another day. What's happening now is employers are using LinkedIn and other tools to go out and scan thousands and thousands of LinkedIn profiles using a very demanding, challenging algorithm to get the best people. And this is, I think, going to change how people manage their careers and specifically how people handle their career progression. Something that was, kind of taken for granted in the past. So you're going to ask this question: what does this mean for me, and why do I need to care? You need to care because if you don't keep everything really tidy, if you will, if you don't have a good career progression with good tenures, not a lot of detours, not a lot of layoffs, then you will be more competitive in a very competitive market, a market that will increasingly become more competitive as businesses shed management and executive roles. They're down about 4% per year since the start of the pandemic, and that's probably going to continue and maybe even escalate. So there's a lot of competition for the jobs. So this is what it means for you. It's great to have those dreams, and it's great to plan for those dreams. But in order to achieve those dreams, you will have to execute very, very carefully, and you will have to manage your progression very carefully. Okay. Finding a job is a zero-sum game. Okay. We never you wanted to think about it in those terms, but that's what it is. When somebody's hired, a bunch of people lost. They didn't get the job. Some of those people that may have thought that was their dream job, the job they wanted for their whole life, they lost. Somebody came along and did a better job interviewing, a better job communicating their value, a better job connecting with the client's needs. And so, that they won, you lost. And it's the same principle in a layoff. Somebody gets picked to get laid off and other people don't. So we want to certainly think about that going forward. You've got to be better prepared today. That means you have to work carefully on how you manage your career and the steps you take and the tenures and your accomplishments and your relationships that you build. You also have to understand the depth of your strengths. A lot of people just say, well, I'm good at what I do and I've had some great jobs and I've been successful. You've got to go deeper than that. You've got to understand really why you were successful. Not that you were successful. That's good. But you got to be able to explain to the prospective employer now why you were so successful. What makes you different from other people? Now, clearly, short turnovers are never a good thing, and accepting jobs that are not aligned with your career plan is probably early in your career. Okay, that's probably okay. But as you get more into the middle and later stages of your career, you have to be extremely careful because you're going to start running out of time to achieve your goals. And if you have too many detours and circle backs and short tenures, people are going to say, what kind of person? What is their management skills really like? Why would I want to hire somebody like that? Understand the industry prejudices about career choices. And let me just use this example. I know a very, very talented CEO, and his career he's achieved a lot of what he wanted to achieve. But there was a time where he got impatient. He wanted to be a CEO, and he was really impatient and aggressive, ambitious. And so he left general acute care and took a job in an LTAC, a long-term acute care hospital, usually hospitals within a hospital. Now that's a challenging job, and they're usually owned by for-profit private equity investors, and so you've got to produce or you don't stay around. So you've got to. It's a really demanding environment, and he did okay in that environment, but he missed acute care, and so he started applying for jobs. He was out, I think, in LTAC about a year and a half, 2 years. But the prejudice in healthcare and hospitals and the general acute care side is if you're an LTAC, that's no big deal. I mean, you really don't understand acute care. It's like saying if you've been in a nursing home, you don't really understand healthcare. And so there are built in prejudices, and you have to understand what those are in terms when you make your choices. If you go into behavioral health, for example, that can be extremely difficult to then shake that, what Hollywood calls a typecast. It makes it very difficult for you to get back into the mainstream of healthcare. So you want to think about those things very carefully. Yes, being a CEO looks good on your resume. Yes, that gives you incredible experience. But it can be very difficult to recover from. Now, the good news is this guy, I was able to help and coach him, and he was able to get in with a public hospital in Fort Worth. And he was able to get back in the groove. He hit home runs going forward, and is now a major health system senior executive in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And I'm extraordinarily proud of him. He worked hard to recover from his earlier mistake. So understand industry prejudices about career choices. Now, you're always, why did you take that? Why did you take that job? It wasn't consistent with what you're telling me your goal is. Well, I wanted to be a CEO. Balance that. It's a risk reward. So keep that in mind. And you must be strategic to avoid career detours that will hurt your advancement. And so when you're thinking about how to move forward, you can get stuck. And some people may say, I can't possibly think about what I want to be doing when I retire. Okay, great. I think that's important if you can get to that point. But if you can't, let's talk about 6 months or a year or next week. But you need to have a goal, and you need to start executing on that goal. In 2 months, what do you want to be doing? If you don't start setting goals for yourself, you may find yourself in the current job you have until you're either fired or until you hit the wall and retire. I mean, you got to think about what you want to achieve financially and in terms of emotional and professional fulfillment. And if you get stuck saying, well, I can't think about 6 years from now or 10 years from now, great, understand. You can't even think 5 years from now. Okay, great. But what do you want to be doing in a year from now? At least start with that short goal, and you can always then build on that. So don't allow yourself to get stuck. So one of the things you also want to keep in mind, and when you're making selections, is your career plan versus getting caught up in the moment. You want to be very, very careful and very deliberate. Now, even if your goal is just to have a good job, you still have to take care of these issues, because getting a good job, keeping a good job, finding your next better job, even if you're not a hard charger in career, you still got to make the money. And the more money you make, the better off you're going to be. So you want to be careful that you follow your plan and that you don't let things derail you in the spirit of the moment. Now, somebody said, look, you're saying that I shouldn't experiment and I shouldn't create and I shouldn't innovate and I shouldn't explore. No, I'm not saying that. In fact, I think there's a great element to your career development to have a free spirit. Being a wanderlust, though, is best experienced sooner than later in life. So, if you want to go try different things, that's great. But as you move forward in your career and you're moving up and you're in a tougher competition for better money, better compensating jobs, more senior and with greater scope of responsibility, more visibility, you have to pay attention. Now, This is based on a real situation. A guy gets out of college. He was looking for his first job. He lands that entry level position, and it's actually kind of in the stream of where he says he ultimately wants to be. He's there for 18 months, and he gets recruited because some of his friends say, "Hey, we live in this city, and it's a real cool place, and we're having a great time, and there are a lot of jobs up here." So he takes an interesting job that he thinks it'll be good experience, but it's unrelated to his career goal. He's up there for 2 years. Then he always wanted to visit Alaska, so he lives 24 months in Alaska, and none of the jobs he holds in those 24 months, there's not just one, there's multiple jobs, are unrelated to his career goal. He waited tables. He was a volunteer, did some work on EMS. He got certification as a dispatcher, but they weren't really goals. That was a lifestyle job. Number four, he's back on track. He's goal related, but he gets laid off, and the job search takes him and lasts 11 months. So then 5 months, he gets back on track again, and so then, this is a good start. And job number six, he's back in the mainstream of where he wants to be. Now he's wandered around, but this was early in his career, and he's gotten some good experience that, say, people who just got in one job and stayed in that one type of job forever, he has had some life's experiences that other people might not have. And those could be very good at helping him understand his leadership style, understanding his values. So these wanderlust experiments are not a bad thing early in your career. They're not uncommon, youthful career misadventures. And to be honest, very few career paths are straight and uninterrupted. But today's new normal, what we consider the new normal, more competition, you know, more demanding employers. The career outlook requires planning and discipline because there's much evidence to suggest that employers are going to look at your employment record and how you've managed that over the years. So when you start thinking about a job, you want to look at the risk and the reward. And this should be the driving force when you make a decision. I know people say, yeah, that's what I do, but you really have to be intentional and very disciplined about this because the competition is only going to intensify. So here's the formula that you really need to have. And we could add on a lot of other components to this, but these are the 5 essential elements. First of all, have a written career plan. Even if you're just looking you want to have a job and becoming a CEO of a Fortune 100 public company is not high on your list, even though you might enjoy the money you make. That's just not that important. You have other important values in your life, and that is even more important. So you still have to have a plan, and the research shows that people with written plans do a better job. They are more successful than those who just kind of keep it in their brain because there's not any discipline. Now, if you're unsure about long-range goals, refocus. What is your career goal? As I said earlier, next month, 6 months, write it down with performance metrics. Don't keep talking about what you want to do or where you want to go. You've got to start measuring your performance or you'll never get there. Understand your value. You need to develop a value brand statement. If you're one of our clients and you're a member of our community, you know what that means. And you know that helps you do a better job interviewing. You've got to build your brand. People say, well, why do my performance and my reputation should be enough? Not anymore. You're now competing with thousands and thousands of people in the marketplace called LinkedIn. And LinkedIn can look at thousands of profiles for a specific job with a very challenging algorithm in no time at all. And so you have to stand out with your performance, with how you manage your career progression, with your image. Okay. And now you have to execute with your work and your plan. If you don't deliver good results for your employer, that is going to really set you back. So yes, I talk a lot about strategy. I talk a lot about planning. I talk about brand building and all those things. But at the end of the day, it's all about execution. If you don't execute, in doing those things and delivering results for your employer that meets but preferably exceeds their expectations, then you will have a tougher time advancing. Now, there's a new selection criteria in terms of how you manage your career, and I've kind of alluded to this. So what's driving this change? Job hopping has always been a concern, but in today's economy, this job market, it is the kiss of death. So if you've had a lot of short tenures, you're going to have a really good explanation. Or as they said, Desi Arnaz used to say, Lucy, you have some explaining to do. You're going to have a really good explanation. And you know what the problem is? If you have a lot of changes, if you have short tenures, and there's a pattern of performance, you may never even get to the table because the computer algorithm may eliminate you from consideration. Keep in mind that for every 10 resumes that are submitted for consideration, only about 2 or 3 are seen by human beings. The computers are making more of the decisions. Now, where that's not the case are in search firms where they still look at things manually, but even the bigger firms have AI power to evaluate candidates out of their database. So this is really, really important. You've got to have consistency in and progression in your career. These are becoming more and more important. If you stay too long in one place, that can hurt you. If you have too many short tenures, that can hurt you. So you have to be intentional. Used to, if you left someplace sooner than 5 years in certain industries, you were considered a job hopper. Now, 2 to 3 years is okay, but you've got to keep monitoring that, because just because that may be an acceptable standard today doesn't mean it will be in a year from now as competition increases. So here's a good guide for career management. First of all, always, 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 did I mention always? Deliver what is expected in terms of results. I have a better plan, exceed those expectations. Now, this is a foundational element of your career plan. Exceptional performance is so, so important. Build an internal network. Be supportive, be helpful, be encouraging to your colleagues, and be self aware, be brand aware, be invaluable to the team, your boss, and the organization. Because being part of a layoff is no longer a neutral consideration for your next better job. When you get laid off, understand this: it may not have been because you didn't perform well, but somebody else didn't get laid off and you were chosen to be laid off. Why? And people are asking those questions. Why were you laid off? Why were you included in that group? And I will tell you, people who don't build internal networks, who don't build relationships, who just think that it's all about doing the good job and don't worry about the office politics, that's craziness. Okay? Don't do that. It's not necessarily dog eat dog office politics, but it is about building relationships and helping people grow and being supportive and being there for other people. And in the end, those are the people that generally survive. Now, early exploration and job sampling, even with an erratic past, is not necessarily career limiting if it's early in your career. Um, you can make that into an asset if you are able to explain the incredible experiences that you got. And you can always say, I felt like this was the best time to try different things in my life, because later in life, as a parent and as a provider, I have to be more approach things much differently. Even later career adjustments are not intrinsically negative, but you must appear to be intentional with your choices. Many plans are better than no plan. Okay. People say, well, gosh, I don't really want to do a career plan because I know it's going to change. No, businesses have career plans and they change all the time, but that doesn't give the CEO a pass for not developing one. And you are the CEO of you. So this is the big idea for today. The business landscape I'm going to drop this off here so you can see it. The business landscape and job market are really undergoing structural changes, including how business is conducted, And more importantly, this is really, really important, how human capital is recruited and deployed. Now, there's going to be further contraction in the number of available management and executive positions, and it has been about 4%, 3.9 to 4% per year, and that's a lot of jobs. Competition will intensify, and as older workers delay retirement to maximize their financial posture, a lot of a lot of this competition is just going to intensify. And again, internal networking and aggressive brand management will be necessary to guard against the inevitable layoffs that will become another feature of this landscape. I really want to thank you today for joining us. If you were trying to watch the live feed earlier, StreamYard is the service we use, and they have a unique feature. And if I kill my video or block it off the stage, then it cuts the sound. And it didn't. Nobody told me that, and I finally kind of did the diagnostics and sorted through it. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have questions on this presentation or would like copies of the slides, you can reach me at info@johngself.com, and we're happy to help you. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. for Career Live, and we're going to be talking about the underhanded, quiet firing that big companies are doing to avoid paying big severances with big, nasty layoffs. So thank you for joining us today. Hey, I hope you'll pay attention to the promotions on the boot camp that we're doing April 27th. We have two great speakers lined up and some great coursework that we'll be going through. So this will be a chance to get a lot of information and ask a lot of questions. Oh, and by the way, Friday at 11, I'll be here answering your questions. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, great evening, and we'll see you soon.